Hello and welcome to Bulimia Sucks. I'm your host, Kate Hudson Hall, and thank you so much for listening. Now, this is a platform for people to share relatable and uplifting and inspiring conversations based on an eating disorder. And then we have a wide variety of fabulous people that come and join us. People talking who are going through their eating disorder at the moment and sharing their difficult journeys and how they've taken their steps into recovery, and then also to people who have overcome their eating disorder and, what steps they took to do that. And then also we talk to professionals who work with people with eating disorders. So it's a nice variety of different people. Now, my audiobook is live on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. So if you would be interested in like a free copy, then please email me at katehudsonhall@gmail.com and I can send you the code so you can download it for free. The other thing that I've just finished doing is I have written a book to help break through people's difficulties and to be able to teach different tools and ways to be able to break these awful anxiety patterns, particularly in this day and age. So my book is called Anxiety Hacks, and the subtitle is Techniques and Tools and Tips to Calmness. So the book will be coming out this year, 2022, hopefully in September, October. So watch out for that. Now we have a fabulous guest joining us today, and her name is Shani-Lee Wallis. And she grew up in England with childhood secrets that manifested into a battle with bulimia. And she emigrated to Arizona, where she started to unpeel the complex layers of emotions that her secrets had inflicted. As she incorporated life-changing habits into her lifestyle, she was able to heal and overcome her turbulent and dangerous relationship with her eating disorder, which is amazing. Writing was always a therapeutic outlet until she realized she had something valuable to share. Turning her own journey of self-help into a path to help others is how War with Myself was born. So we want to hear more about that. And Shani has set up and is about to launch a series of in-person and online workshops to help those that will benefit from peer mentorship. Each workshop will encompass and encourage the principles of EDIT, which is a method that helps you to understand your eating disorder voice. And we all have the voices in our head, and some are just dire. And it's exploring why it's there in the first place and how it serves a purpose. It transitions into intuitive therapy that encourages you to open up and heal from within and gain new skills to aid in your recovery. So Shani-Lee, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
It's great. Yes, it's fabulous to have you here. So let's begin with your journey with your eating disorder with bulimia. How did that kind of begin?
So this actually started way younger than when my eating disorder itself manifested. And I think this is one of the things that people that don't understand eating disorders really need to educate themselves on. So this started when I was a small child. I grew up in a household that was abusive, and my mom ended up having an affair with a guy up the road, and we ran away with him and his eldest son. And unbeknownst to me, this new journey was the start of everything unraveling, my journey into my hell. And so even though we're talking about the bulimia, this is where everything started that triggered my anxiety and my depression, which stemmed from sexual abuse from my mom's new boyfriend's son. So living in that household and living with that daily. So that caused daily anxiety, depression, feeling like I had nobody to turn to, nobody to talk to. And I was so young. When this started, I was about 9.
Yeah.
And it continued into my mid-teens.
Oh,
So
God.
that kind of gives a background of why I started with mental health issues to begin with. This was the foundational, cracks in my foundation, if you will, that kind of opened up to having an eating disorder to help deal with the lack of control that I was feeling in my life at the time. But fast forwarding a little bit, when I was about 18, 19, I met a lovely fellow from America. He was from Michigan, and he was so sweet. He showed me kindness, and he was one of the first people that I felt safe with. And so we ended up getting together, but knowing that he wasn't going to stay around for a long time. We knew that there was only a few months of, us getting to know each other before he had to go back to his home in Michigan.
Right.
And even though I knew all of this, I didn't realize how much of a lifeline he was to me because I felt so safe around him. There were never any expectations with him. He just wanted to get to know me and spend time with me without me having that extra, angst of, is he going to try anything I don't want? Is he going to make me do something I don't want to do? I just felt like I could relax with him 100%. So the day that he left, was a crucial part of when my eating disorder triggered, because when he left, I felt like I had nobody. I had nothing. And this day that he left, I remember the exact moment, I was strong. I was crying, but we were both crying. We were saying goodbye. But as soon as that door closed, it was as if my soul had left my body. As cheesy, as corny as that sounds, I felt like the bit of light that I had inside of me just left.
Right.
And at that moment, I remember the emotion building up and I bawled. It wasn't just crying, it was an emotion and a noise I'd never heard from myself before. And I just crashed against the wall and crashed to the floor, and I stayed there for hours just crying. And when I'd kind of come around a bit and thought, I need to try and pull myself together, I decided to go out to the local shop. And, you see in the movies, when you want to make yourself feel better, you eat ice cream or junk food and watch TV, right? That's what you see. So I just wanted a bit of comfort. And when I went to the store, I went to the local fish and chip shop, and that was great. I hadn't had that for a while, but I also remember getting lots of sweets. And I just wanted to just have a pig out session, and there were no intentions involved. My mind was not thinking about anything else other than, I just want to comfort eat. I want to feel better. I don't want to feel the hurt that I'm feeling right now.
Right.
And so after I'd eaten all of that, and because of where I was emotionally, my stomach hurt so bad. I'd eaten so much food. I just kept going and going and going. And even when I made that decision to purge, it wasn't to purge that had anything to do with weight, nothing to do with weight. It was more, I needed the release of the pain gone from my stomach that I was feeling because I'd overeaten. And I think when I went to the bathroom that day and purged for the first time, I think there was a disconnect or miscommunication somewhere, because the release I felt in my stomach, the pain wasn't there anymore because the food had gone. So it wasn't engorged like it was before. I think I got confused with the emotional release. So even though it was a physical release I felt in my stomach, it made me feel a bit better. So somewhere down the line, I correlated that with feeling better emotionally. Yeah. And I found myself a few times after that. It wasn't all throughout the day, every day, but times that I found myself overwhelmingly upset, I would do the same thing. I would binge, and then I would purge because I would eat too much. And then it became a cycle. Then I knew something wasn't right, because it was becoming more of something that I knew I was going to do. So even in the beginning, it wasn't anything to do with weight. And that's something I really want people to understand. I didn't have an issue with the way I looked. I didn't have an issue with my weight itself or food that I was eating. This was all emotions.
And it was your way of dealing with your feelings, wasn't it?
Exactly. I felt so out of control for so long. And this was the straw that broke the camel's back. I was just done. I felt like I couldn't hang on anymore. So this was what I meant by, sometimes, well, all the time, there's a purpose to an eating disorder, right? The purpose is to help you overcome the emotional baggage or any trauma, or to help numb any feelings. Yeah. This is why we do it. And I think there's so many people out there that feel that we do this because we want to lose weight. And even though it didn't start with weight-related issues, it soon turned into that. So once I started realizing that something was happening, I actually made an active decision to go to the doctors. I made an appointment. I went to the doctor. And because I hadn't lost enough weight, the doctor turned me away. And she said my BMI was still in the normal range and that she didn't have any concerns for me. And once I'd reached a certain weight, to make another appointment. So in my mind, I left them thinking, well, she's not too concerned. Why should I be? So I left and dealt with my emotions the only way that I knew how. The only way I knew how to keep everything numb and at bay was by binging and purging. And soon, very soon after, once people started realizing I'd lost the weight, they were like, oh, you're losing weight. What are you doing? Are you training? At the time, I was a personal trainer. So I lied.
Yeah.
And I would tell people I'm training for a half marathon or a triathlon, or I'm just upping my workout routine. And people in the beginning did not think anything about it.
Yeah.
And the more and more I got these compliments of how good I was looking, how fit I was looking, it fed me. The more I heard that, the more I wanted to do it. And then I knew 100% it was all about the weight. So it's a fine line, in the beginning, it's all emotional. And then somewhere along the line, it hooks you in like an addiction, and you just keep going with it. And before you know it, you are in something that is turbulent and dangerous.
Yes, very dangerous.
Yeah.
And how long did that pattern go on for?
I struggled with my bulimia for almost 20 years.
Wow.
It was a long road. And I firmly believe that had I have found a professional that didn't turn me away, I wouldn't have had, that feeling of distrust. And I would have probably gotten help a lot sooner. I would have gotten through my recovery a lot sooner. So, but unfortunately, because of my initial experience, I was really put off by that. And I had to deal with my recovery through trial and error. And that's why it took so long, because I didn't fully understand why I had it in the first place. So,
it's so confusing.
I didn't know why I had it. How can you fully get over this? Because then you're only dealing with the symptoms and not the cause. So then it makes it a lot harder. And so I see a lot of, treatment centers, a lot of people that are going through therapy, and people are trying to, attack it from one point of view as far as the symptoms. You need to see a nutritionist. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's like, well, what about the why? There's a reason this started in the first place. Let's uncover this. Let's find out if there was any trauma, if there was any anxiety, or depression that lasted, a long duration, which can cause this as well. Let's find out the why so that can actually be helped and build a good foundation for a healthy recovery and a long-lasting one that will prevent relapse as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's understanding, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's unraveling that whole journey and then figuring it out, what the causes are, and then working through them.
Exactly.
And then you can start to piece it back together positively.
Once you start putting the jigsaw pieces together, I think that is when true recovery can start. You need to, I'm a firm believer that you need to come at your recovery, covering your mind, your body, and your heart, or your soul, whatever, you want to think of, but it's not just one area. It needs to be well-rounded, or else there's always going to be that hole. And as long as you have that crack or hole in your foundation, you can't continue to build that wall, and build it strong, which is you and yourself and your life and your journey.
Yeah. And so, Shani-Lee, for you, when you decided to get help after 20 years, so what sort of guided you towards doing that and reaching out for help?
As selfish as this sounds, for many years, my husband and my son weren't enough because I was very numb a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Or if I wasn't wholly numb, I didn't care about anybody else's feelings. So I couldn't comprehend what I was putting my husband and my son through. Or even, my family members. There were a couple of family members that knew. So to be honest, my recovery started when I actively made the decision to want a better life for myself, for me. So my husband was the one that sat down with me, and it was kind of an ultimatum, which, you know what, I don't blame him, because he'd lived with me for so long, and he didn't want me to die. He couldn't watch me do this to myself when I wasn't working on getting better. It's one thing if you are taking the steps to get better, and another to just keep digging your grave. That's exactly what I was doing. And I didn't have any regard for him whatsoever. So one day he sat me down and he said, "You've got to want more for yourself." He's like, "Do you like the way you're living right now?" And I remember my days, they were awful. They were consumed with thoughts of food, weight, feelings that were triggered by all of this from the minute that I woke up to the minute I went to bed. And I didn't want to live like that anymore, in a way that I thought about taking my own life a few times. I just thought everything would be so much better if I just wasn't here. But he made me realize it wasn't the fact that I didn't want to be here. I didn't want to deal with the emotion. I didn't want to deal with everything I was dealing with. And those are two very different things. So he brought to light about how important I was to him. And if I wanted to have a good life, a fulfilled life with adventure and experiences and enjoying family time together, then I had to take a first step. And so it was actually him that decided, look, when your eating disorder first started, there wasn't a lot out there. The internet, well, there wasn't anything on the internet. The internet had just come out. So it was very hard for him to become educated. So my husband decided to educate himself on eating disorders, some science behind it, why people get eating disorders in the first place. And he was on the internet all the time. He would get reading materials. And so once he educated himself and fully understood, or tried to understand as much as he could, it put us in a better position because I felt empathy from him. Before that time frame, there was a lot of, "I can't believe we just went to this restaurant. You just literally flushed our money down the toilet." And he'd watch me go to the restroom as soon as I'd eaten in a restaurant. And so for him, that was something that I would put him through. So now when he's talking about how we are going to move forward, what are we going to do in order to get you through this recovery process, we sat down and we hashed out a plan. He had told me that he is willing to be around me during times of eating, because binging isn't a table habit, right? It's something that you do on your own, and it's usually on the sofa or on the floor, and you've got lots of food around you and you intend to eat all that food. So for him, he was there to help with portion control. He was there to eat with me.
Wonderful.
And he was there afterwards as well. So for me, it was really important to have somebody with me for a certain period of time so that I was less likely to go binge. And it could be things where we're playing games together, or he's just refocusing my mind. And I'm not saying
that's so important. I think, sorry, Shani, in my book, Bulimia Sucks, there's a downloadable information for people, for family and friends. And one of the key points that I talk about in there is that they need to get educated. That's the very first step. They've got to understand what is going and the whole bigger picture of their loved one with bulimia, first of all. And so, you know, and so that's so important. And so what an amazing husband.
He is. If it wasn't for him, I truly believe I wouldn't be here. He's the one that helped me put my recovery plan together and make me realize that life can be worth living. I just needed to recognize what I wanted my life to look like and what steps I was willing to take to get there. So like I said, it wasn't easy because I was still doing it on my own. I wasn't using a therapist. I wasn't using doctors that I spoke to on a regular basis. This was me and my husband. But what my husband did do was, because he got educated and he understood there's got to be a why, it allowed him to ask questions that he didn't know he should be asking. So he asked me more about my past. He knew that things went on, but he didn't know to what extent. And so he would do it in a way that I would feel comfortable. It wasn't confrontational. It was just conversational. And so I found myself opening up to him. And I'm a firm believer that the more you talk about something, whether it's a fear, a trauma, anything like that, the less power it has over you. So the more I talked about it, the better I felt. Or not better as in yay, but I mean, I felt like I was taking back the power.
Yes.
I felt like, you know, before when I would talk about it, I would get upset. Now, because I've spoken about it so often, I talk about it like I've read somebody else's journey, and I'm sad for that person about what they went through, but I have a healthy disconnect. I know I went through that and I dealt with that, and I'm strong now because I've taken my power back. And that is what Paul, my husband, actually gave to me. He allowed me to open up to the journey of recovery by helping me heal what had happened, you know, or heal the wounds from what had happened and make me understand that I wasn't to blame. I was just a child. I had no control over that. And the more he would tell me, you know, that it wasn't my fault, and the more he would get me to open up about my feelings about it and what experience I had had, I felt the stronger I was to move forward onto the next step of my recovery. So he really did open a door for me, which was amazing.
Gosh, incredible, incredible. I hope he went on to train to become some sort of therapist. He sounds like he would be a marvelous therapist.
I feel so too. He is, you know, he's definitely got that emotional side as well. Yeah. He's such a good guy.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. So what do you feel, you know, if you could talk to that younger you back then, what would you feel that you would like to say to that younger you? What would you tell her?
I would say, first of all, you're not alone. You are not the only person that's going through this, and there's so many people out there that are willing to help you. And I understand that you are living or feeling like you're living with the weight of the world on your shoulders with your experiences that you've been through. But all it takes is that one person to help. And if you are ready to take that next step, there's somebody there waiting to help you. Life is worth living. You're not defined by your past.
Yeah.
And you can move on to a healthy future. You just have to want it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Shani-Lee, so tell us where you are now and what you're doing now. So tell us about your workshops and how that developed.
So I am actually really excited about this. This actually developed because I'm a member of a few eating disorder recovery groups online.
Right.
And there were many people that would reach out within the group, and they would mention about the treatment centers that they tried and they didn't work and why they didn't work. There were people that would jump on there and get in on the conversation and say, treatment centers don't work for me. I have a job. I will lose my job if I have to go into treatment for a certain period of time. And other people that didn't have daycare, and other people who just thought that it didn't have or didn't encompass everything that they were looking for as either treatment center or outpatient.
Right.
And so it got me thinking, when I was conversing with these people, I was asking them, so what kind of thing, are you looking for? I know what I would look for. I know what's helped me through my recovery and what I implemented daily, but what is it that you're looking for? And some of them would tell me they didn't know. Some of them would tell me that they needed a safe space where they could feel they could share not just about their eating disorder habits, but also the frustrations of what might happen, during a day, because that can trigger a binge and purge cycle, or for those that are, have a different eating disorder, can cause them to restrict, or whatever it is that they do to help cope with their feelings. So I kind of delved a little bit further into that, and I asked them specifically, what would you like to see if you could turn up to a class, a workshop, a group? What is it that you would like to see? And they said they would like to see a class that encompasses everything that you should really do in your everyday life. So it's, things like meditation, affirmations,
Yes.
learning how to journal. What kind of journal prompts should people, have?
Yeah.
And this could be a wide array of things: mindful movement, an open group, and discussing different things about, body image, and relapse prevention, things that you really need. So in the workshops, I would really like to have, even in one class, if it starts and opens with mindful movement and then move on to group, and then, do a bit of meditation and then do something else. So in one workshop, everybody gets an opportunity to do a little piece of everything, so that they feed their soul, they feel their mind, they fill their body, they do everything that they should be doing, daily.
Absolutely. And then it's
Yeah.
experimenting as well as finding out what really works for you.
Exactly. And this is one of the key things that the principles of the edit. So edit is discovering your eating disorder voice and why it's there, the purpose. And then the it portion is the intuitive therapy. And the principles that it goes through is love yourself, which is going over self-image and body image. And then there's be true to yourself, which is intuitive living, intuitive eating, and intuitive exercise. And then there's express yourself, which is awareness and coping and healing. and then giving to yourself, self-care routines, self-care practices. And then the last one is believe in yourself, which is all about your recovery and your success. So all of these things will be encompassed into the workshops as well. So the in-person ones are going to be mini, like an hour's worth of incorporating all of those things, the mindful movement, the journaling, things like that. And then the online one, I really want to have more of not the activities, but talking through things, going through these principles, delving in a little bit deeper, getting people to open up, to really be on that journey to find out their why and how to heal within. So those are the main reasons why I wanted to do these workshops, so that I'm able to help those that are in my community. I feel like we're in a little eating disorder community because we understand each other. And what I did was I reached out to the people in these groups and I said, okay, if anything like this was offered, is this something that people would be interested in? You know, I took your ideas, I put it together. These are the things that helped me on my journey. And I believe that it can help many others too. And the outreach was great.
Wow.
I felt like so many people really need things like this, you know, something that they can participate in with peers and not just therapists and clinicians. Everybody has their place, right? But it's not for everybody, and not everybody has the means to be able to do it, or people are on waiting lists. They need something in the interim. They need
absolutely, but it could also be extra support alongside, you know, some sort of program or I don't know, a therapist or whatever it may be.
Exactly. I think the main thing about this group work and these workshops is you're doing it together with your peers. You're doing it with people that have understood where you are and where you're going and where you can get. And the people that participate that have gotten so far, I believe it's great to have a sponsor, somebody that's, you know, so far or had a positive outcome in their recovery. They can be a support system for somebody that is going through the workshop. You know, if somebody's feeling triggered or down or feeling like I'm going to do something, I need to reach out to somebody that understands. I think it's a crucial point in recovery that's needed for many.
And the workshops, so will they be, how long will the workshops be? I mean, is it going to be a 3 hour or 6 hour?
They'll be, I want them to be weekly. And so it'll be an hour a week, but then the online ones can be daily. Right. So you can jump in and out of any ones that you want. So we're still working on them. We're finalizing them, but we're hoping to launch them really soon.
So really soon. So maybe in end of August, September?
Yes. Yeah. So if anybody's interested.
So how can they find out more about them?
You can go to my website, which is warwithmyself.com.
Right.
You can find me on Facebook, and that is at War With Myself No More. And those are the two best places. Or you can email me directly at shani@warwithmyself.com.
So it's SHANI at warwithmyself.com.
Yes.
Ooh. God, they sound so powerful. And it sounds like it would be so helpful for people to be able to go and talk about their feelings and talk about their difficulties throughout their day. And, you know, because we have so many different emotions and feelings and stresses that happen every day. So being able to work through those, or just even to talk about them and learn how to journal with those would be just, you know, it sounds like so much positivity in there.
Yes, I agree. And like I said, these were things that helped me, and through talking to a lot of other people that have gone through the journey, and through trial and error for them, they have found that a lot of these things really help them too. So I'm hoping it'll help a lot of others.
Oh, yes. Well, it sounds like it will. It'll be hugely beneficial. Absolutely. So great. Well, gosh, Shani-Lee, thank you so much for sharing your journey and all this useful, powerful information.
Well, it was amazing to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to get my story out to educate people.
Yeah, yeah. So important, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Great. So that's all for today's episode of Bulimia Sucks. And thank you to everybody for listening. And before we go, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Apple iTunes so you never miss an episode, and let us know what you think by showing some love, your favorite podcast, by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iTunes, Castbox, Buzzsprout, or wherever you listen. That would be fabulous. So thank you so much. And I look forward to speaking with you in the next episode.